Get ready to listen, learn, and earn CE hours. This podcast features content from an accredited CE activity provided by Colibri Healthcare. Visit elitelearning.com/podcasts for accreditation and disclosure statements and instructions on how you may be able to earn CE credits.
I guess initially I thought that I was going to be able to learn all of these amazing things and all of these amazing treatments and all these amazing methodologies and be able to tell people what they needed to do or, tell them how to fix what was going on. And I think the thing that I value the most about nursing was that I really learned that what I want doesn't necessarily matter. I can help them to engage with what's most important to them. And through all those things that I learned, through all those methodologies, through all that stuff, I can help to find better ways for them to get there. But I'm not driving the ship. I'm just trying to help them get there. I'm trying to help them navigate that. And I think that was a really good thing for me to learn within nursing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leanna McGuire, and I will be your host for this Elite Learning podcast series, Second Careers in Nursing. During this episode, we'll have a conversation with Jesse Kennedy, who is a nursing practice consultant for the Oregon Nurses Association. Hi to you, Jesse. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So before we get started on what you're doing now, which sounds really intriguing, what was your first career?
So my first career was in construction. My stepdad was a general contractor. So really from the time I was able to go to the job site and, pick stuff up and sweep, I was doing that. I started doing that full time in high school, like my junior year, back and forth between school and work and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I did that for quite a while until I was ready to do what I wanted to do.
Okay. And when did you graduate from nursing?
I graduated from my associate's program in 2013.
2013. Okay. And how long, you said you'd been in construction since high school?
Yeah. Through most of any free time I had in high school and then full time once I graduated, that was 2002.
Okay. And you said that you finally decided to do what you wanted to do. So was this something that had always called your name, nursing, or did it present itself to you at one point?
Yeah, I mean, so during high school, actually, I was able to participate in a fundraiser for the Children's Miracle Network, which was one of the most amazing things that I had ever had the opportunity to do. And it was, the premise of it was initially kind of silly. I mean, basically, it was like we raised money, but then we had to do like like skits and like a pageant thing, which is kind of funny. But the important thing was that we got to go visit the children in the neonatal intensive care unit.
Oh, wow.
And that was a pretty amazing experience to be able to see all of those babies who would not have been able to survive otherwise, except for the care of those nurses who were working with them directly. So being able to see them was a pretty impactful situation. And then once I had my daughter, I felt like it was I don't know, I guess disingenuous of me to be able to keep telling her that she could do whatever she wanted to do when I kept doing what everybody else wanted me to do rather than what I wanted to do. So
nice.
That was kind of the point where I knew I had to do something else.
Good for you. That's a great example for her. And, you get to fulfill your life's passion. So neonatal thing can really have an impact. So that's a great story. You could have turned into an actor after the skits. I mean, could have gone any direction.
It wasn't that good. It's not that good. It was pretty ridiculous, really.
Okay, well, talk to us about this, the area of nursing you're in currently, and what made you choose that route.
Sure. So I'm as a nursing practice consultant for the Oregon Nurses Association. Basically, I mostly focus on the staffing law. So working with nurses to better understand what the staffing law says, how they can interact with it, how they can create better staffing plans, working with them to build up their skills, their boardroom skills. So like how to work with Robert's rules, parliamentary procedure, that kind of stuff, so that when they're in those types of settings, they use those rules that they can understand the flow of things, so that they can move effectively through them. And that also works directly with shared governance committees and things like that. And then I also do a lot with continuing education. So I do a lot of creating content specific for things like, well, parliamentary procedure. I'm kind of a parliamentary procedure, Robert's rules geek with that kind of stuff. So those sorts of things. So prepping nurses before they go to like the membership assembly or conventions and that kind of stuff, to help them understand, what that means when there's a motion, and then there's an amendment to the motion, and then there's an amendment to the amendment, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then I also work a lot in general with helping nurses to become familiar with legislation, community involvement, to help coordinate between ONA and other community organizations, and basically working towards finding those areas where ONA and nurses in general in Oregon can interact with other members of the community and utilize their specialty. That's kind of where I got involved with the professional association, was working with the community and trying to find that bridge.
Right. And you've been on both sides. I know you have experience in boardrooms, definitely, and on boards and clinically. So you can speak to both sides. That's fantastic. Are there other areas within nursing that you're interested in exploring at some point?
That's a good question. I mean, I really liked working in the ICU. I really liked working with those patients and those families, especially. I think I ultimately just felt like it was difficult with the skill set that I had at the time to be able to really make a difference in the nursing profession. Knowing what I know now, I realize I could have had a broader impact than what I had thought at the time. But I've been trying to find those positions where I could make the biggest impact, and so that's where I came here to my current position. And so I'm not sure what that could look like afterward, but I think right now I'm working towards my PhD. So continuing to increase my education and continuing to be able to understand those data points, which are always really important for those discussions, whether it's the boardroom or a one-on-one conversation with managers or with nurses, to be able to point to those data points and say, this is really why we have to do X, Y, or Z, because this is what the data is saying, rather than trying to, turn the data around to fix, to support a point.
Sure.
Confirmation bias, we really want to utilize data to show where we should go. So that's really kind of where I'm moving towards at the moment.
Excellent. Excellent. Speaking of education, what kind of preparation did you have to do for nursing coming out of construction? Did you have a fast track, or did you have to get prerequisites, or what did that look like for you?
So I started at my community college here. I did about a year and a half of prerequisites, and then applied to the nursing program, which was honestly like the scariest thing I've ever done, applying for nursing programs. And it felt pretty scary at the time to have to go to an interview, and then a group interview, and then also we had to sit down at a computer. And as soon as we sat down, we had, I think it was 2 hours, and they gave us 4 questions and said we had to write essays on 3 of them, and then they would be making the decision based upon those essays. So
wow,
it was a lot of craziness and trying to buckle down and figure out what it is that I really wanted to do, because the bar was set pretty high. I think there was probably, say, somewhere around 1,200 people that were applying that year, and they only let 63 in the program that year because of faculty. So it was pretty intense. But yeah, when I finally got in, it was the 2-year associate's degree with clinical time built in with all of that. And then as soon as I graduated, I was one of the first students in OCNE, which is what we call it in Oregon, which is the Oregon Consortium of Nursing Educators. So basically, as a associate's degree nurse, I was able to transfer in directly to a RN to BSN program. So I was able to work as a nurse with my associates. I started in the float pool, which was an amazing experience to be able to go to all those different areas
Yeah.
and try to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like. But at the same time, I was still able to do the RN to BSN program online through that whole time.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. That is great. And I love that you're working on your PhD. You're a busy man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, any skills from your construction days that you've brought that have transitioned into the nursing career or?
Yeah, I think being able to work with others and start every day with a plan, with a goal for what you want to do for the day. I think in general that's a pretty common thing that I think you would hear from people who are in construction. I think there's also an additional level since my stepdad was everybody's boss, was that it was always more difficult to be able to prove myself all of the time to show that I did belong there and that I wasn't the foreman just because I actually knew what I was doing. And so there was a lot of leadership without leading, without trying to just be the person in charge, I guess. There wasn't, I think I excelled, or I learned how to engage with them and lead from example and lead through engagement rather than telling them what to do. We would sit down and come up with a plan for the day, decide when we were going to do stuff together rather than, hammering everything down on them to say, this is what we're going to do. And that sort of leadership style, I really was able to develop a leadership style that kind of tried to pull on everybody's strengths and figure out how we all can get to where we need to go without trying to say, well, I'm the boss and this is how we're going to do it. We just figured it out together. So I think that was probably the biggest thing, which initially seemed really scary, but ended up helping quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a great experience. Excellent. And do you still dabble in construction? Are you the one people come to for repairs or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and actually now it's a lot of fun. Now I enjoy it again.
Yeah.
It definitely got to the point where it was no longer any fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I get to go down and play at the shop, and that's kind of my zen time, is to go and build stuff and play with stuff and be able to experiment in new ways with wood and stuff that I had never got to before. I mean, it was always so focused on, you work from dawn till dusk and you get as much stuff done as you can, and there wasn't a lot of time for creativity and fun. But now there's
right. So speaking of your stepdad and the rest of your family, what was the reaction when you went to them and said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to go into nursing?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Yeah, my mom was very supportive. Most of my family was very supportive. My stepdad did not like it at all. In his mind, I was leaving him high and dry. It was either I was with him or I was against him. So that was definitely a really difficult period. But I think if it hadn't been that difficult, then it would have not as benefited me as much as it did for getting through school with all of the engagements with patients who are upset and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think that was really helpful for me to go through that. At the time, it didn't seem like it was helpful at all. It was pretty rough, but
sure.
Looking back on it, I think it was really helpful for dealing with what nurses normally deal with in the healthcare system, which is, we're doing the best that we can and we're sorry, but this is kind of where we are, and trying to figure out where we can help people get from where they are right now to where they want to go in the best way that we can. And there's never really going to be a right answer, and it's never going to be easy.
Right. And kudos to you for sticking to that path. Some may have buckled under that kind of pressure. So kudos to you. And I would assume, and maybe I shouldn't, but I would assume that he's probably come around at this point.
Kind of.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. Kind of. Okay. Let's get back to your nursing career. And I'd love to know from you what you have found to be the most rewarding.
I guess initially I thought that I was going to be able to learn all of these amazing things and all of these amazing treatments and all these amazing methodologies and be able to tell people what they needed to do, or, tell them how to fix what was going on. And I think the thing that I value the most about nursing was that I really learned that what I want doesn't necessarily matter. I can help them to engage with what's most important to them. And through all those things that I learned, through all those methodologies, through all that stuff, I can help to find better ways for them to get there. But I'm not driving the ship. I'm just trying to help them get there. I'm trying to help them navigate that. And I think that was a really good thing for me to learn within nursing. And I think that's probably my favorite thing, is trying to help patients and nurses now more specifically to be able to get to where it is that they want to go. And then at the same time, when they do figure that out, like when you see that light bulb turn on, I think that is one of the most amazing feelings in the world, to help them have just figured out what it is that they want to do, or help them figure out what it is that they're looking for. And sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes it's a lot of listening, and it's a lot of engaging and trying to hear where they're coming from, and try to hear what they say and to repeat it in a different way that helps them to even understand what they're saying. But I think that's probably the most rewarding, is to be able to see that light that turns on, where they realize, oh, that's what it is that I was trying to say. That's what it is that I want to do. And it's generally just listening and trying to engage and trying to understand them better.
Is that what led you to the nursing practice consultant role, wanting to pay it forward in that way?
Yeah, I think so. I think being able to engage with nurses and to understand where they are right now, and to try to help them get to that place where they feel empowered, where they feel engaged. I think when I left the bedside initially, I was feeling pretty disenfranchised, pretty powerless, pretty hopeless. So the reason why I am where I am now is that it helps with the process to be able to engage with those nurses, and to be able to show them that there is an avenue you can engage. This is a career, this is a profession, this isn't just a job. You have the ability to control your practice. That is what separates nursing from a lot of other careers, is that we do dictate our practice. The board of nursing is made up of nurses. Right. And if there's something that is really important to you, then it's equally important that you are sharing that with everyone else. If you're really excited about, I don't know, vaccine clinics, I think that was one of the things that was really important to me when I was first starting in nursing school, then you can do those things. You can engage, you can find the resources, and they're out there to be able to engage in what it is that you're excited about.
Right. I wish I'd known you when I was a young nurse. That would have helped me a lot, for real. Because I know there's quite a few people that feel that sense of being disenfranchised. So I love what you're doing. So I know you've told me what's been the most rewarding. What has been the most surprising for you about nursing?
I think the thing that has been the most surprising has been how to engage in a meaningful way that really impacts everyone. I think it's fairly easy to do the one-offs and to engage one-on-one with people, but it's fairly difficult to be able to do that on a larger scale and still get everyone what they want. I guess I feel like I've always existed in my little bubble, where I think that these are the things that I'm really passionate about, or these are the things that I find are really important. And it's very difficult to reach a place where everybody is equally excited about an outcome. So we can always get some people the things that they want. We can always help some people to find the end of what it is they're looking for, but there's always going to be people that aren't happy about it. And it's always difficult to try to juggle all of those things to find an outcome that everybody's happy with. And unfortunately, that's generally not possible. And I really kind of thought that, well, once I get into nursing, like everybody's going to think the same way. Everybody's going to be really excited about preventative care. Everybody's going to be really excited about, advancing nursing practice in the best way possible, like working at the top of their license. And, not everybody is, and that's okay. So I think that was probably the most surprising thing was, sometimes people just like to go to work and go home, and that's entirely okay. But I think coming into it, I thought that everybody was just as crazy and gung-ho as I was. So you never know. I mean, everybody has their different priorities. So I think that was probably the biggest surprise.
Biggest surprise. I know you also have experience as an educator. Did you always see yourself in that kind of a role as well?
It's kind of funny. No. But in high school, I was voted most likely to become a faculty member, which I thought at the time was like the craziest thing. Like, I thought it was a joke. Like, why would everybody do that to me? But, looking back on it, that's kind of always where I've been. I initially thought I wanted to be a history teacher. And then I realized not everybody is Indiana Jones. There's really only one Indiana Jones. So
that's true.
Probably wasn't the best path. But yeah, I think for some reason that's always where I've kind of felt the most comfortable, is trying to understand things. And then I feel like I also understand things a lot better after I help other people understand them as well. So even if I can read whatever, but once I help somebody else understand it, I understand it a million times better.
Isn't that the truth? Were you initially comfortable with teaching, or was that kind of a stretch initially?
I mean, I guess from like a formal perspective, yes, but I've always thought of it more as like a conversation or engagement with other people to find out where they are, to find out their understanding of something, to share my understanding of whatever the topic is, and then to learn from each other. From that perspective, I think I've always been comfortable with it. But I definitely, when I became a clinical nurse educator, there was this more, I don't know, like formal role, I guess you could say, where it felt like I was supposed to stand in front of a room and just talk at people, but I was never really good at talking at people. So I'm much more comfortable, even if I have to stand in the front of the room, I'd rather talk with people and engage with everyone, have conversations and show what it is that, maybe that I've learned about it. So show me what you've learned about it, or tell me what you've learned about it. So I think I feel slightly uncomfortable with the formal role, but I think at the same time, we can always adjust that to what it should be, which is more of a conversation, more of an engagement, more of a learning perspective.
Well, that's an excellent point. I love that you shared that, because a lot of people do have angst about it's a form of public speaking in a way, but a lot of people have some stress around that. So the conversation approach is perfect for our listeners. That's a nice nugget right there. So I know that you're working on your PhD, and after your PhD, anything specific, or you're just like, just get me over this hurdle right now?
Yeah, I don't know.
See what happens.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll present itself probably.
Yeah, most of the things that have ended up working out really well for me were things that were kind of uncomfortable and kind of scary to begin with. So I'm not really sure what that next thing would be, but it's probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable. It's probably going to be a little scary, but
yeah.
I'm sure there's always going to be teaching involved. There's always going to be engagement and community engagement with it. But hopefully I'll be better able to engage in those discussions after I understand, a little bit more deeply all of those data points and that kind of fun stuff, and those things that when people talk to me right now about data, it sounds like they're speaking an entirely different language and I have no idea what they're talking about. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge of education and discussion, is being able to put things in a way that everybody can understand. So I'm looking forward to learning those things that I have to figure out how to translate and understand better myself.
Right. Well, we'll look forward to talking to you again when you're Dr. Kennedy.
Sounds good.
Any last thoughts or advice for those who want to advance their career but may be a little nervous about that process?
I mean, I think just sometimes putting your hand up, volunteering, stepping up, and risking that people, you might feel that people are uncomfortable with it. You might feel that people are making fun of you. I think usually when I do like large scale town halls or large scale events with nurses now, tend to start stuff off with really ridiculous jokes or like dad jokes or something that's just ridiculous because it kind of breaks the ice. And it's like, well, now if everybody laughs at me, that's okay because we've already started laughing.
Perfect.
So breaking the ice with things that kind of make it feel a little less serious. I think I always, when I have to speak in front of people, I once spoke in Australia in front of several thousand people, and it was the scariest thing in my life. And I kind of don't remember a large portion of it, but I've since like developed ways to help deal with it. Like holding a glass of water really helps. Making a ridiculous joke in the beginning helps, and obviously it's got to be appropriate to the audience. But making a silly joke in the beginning really helps to kind of lighten things up and realize that now if everybody laughs at me, I can kind of feel like we're laughing together, even though who knows. But at the same time, it kind of helps to lighten the mood a little bit and feel like it is what it is, and I'm going to go out there and do the best I can, and I would assume everybody else is doing the best they can too. So trying to lighten the mood always helps.
Excellent advice. Thank you for that. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Second Career Nursing featuring Jessie Kennedy. We encourage you to familiarize yourself with the other courses that are available through EliteLearning.com and to help you advance your own career. We really appreciate you listening. This is Leanna McGuire for Elite Learning by Colibri Healthcare.
This podcast featured content from an accredited CE activity provided by Colibri Healthcare. Visit elitelearning.com/podcasts for accreditation and disclosure statements and instructions on how you may be able to earn CE credits. Take your learning to the next level by subscribing to more podcasts on compelling healthcare topics.